This is Gail Morgan welcoming you to the Libertarian Counterpoint. Now, your host, James Just.
And good evening. Welcome to the Libertarian Counterpoint. With me today is John Cameron, Jason McPhee from the Knuckleheads of Liberty, and back with us is Mr. Richard Fields. The good thing about having problems in the studio, Richard, is we get to see you.
Well, that's a qualified good thing, I guess.
Well, let's go. Let's just jump right in, because some of the things that maybe not so good is the chatbot AI has been trained to lie, make stuff up, or not tell the truth, I suppose is another way to put this.
Well, it's not so much lie as simply repeat the party line of the mainstream climate alarmists, which is that fossil fuels bad, windmills good, and it's not allowed. The question that it was asked was, what would you describe as the benefits of fossil fuels? And originally, it came up with when it was originally put together, and it came up with an answer that was, fairly reasonable. It said that it's a dense form of energy, etc. But the people who control the AI couldn't have that, so they changed it to say that fossil fuels bad.
Fossil fuel bad, bird choppers
fossil fuel
good.
bad, climate change, terrible, and
nuclear power is not.
I think the significant part of the whole thing is we have learned that the mainstream media is merely a mouthpiece of the government and elites. Basically the managerial class of government, the administrative state, the deep state, whatever you want to call it, the people who are there forever and will never leave until they die. That's the managerial or the administrative state. What you can call it whatever you want. The bureaucracy. They have decided that climate change is their thing to die on, their next COVID, the thing that they can scare everybody with to use to gain control of pretty much everything. And so they cannot have anything that contradicts that narrative that climate change is a danger. Therefore, if AI in fact does, looking at a whole, all of the sources of information that are out there, come up with a nuanced argument about why fossil fuels have advantages, AI can't have that because the elite says it can't have it. We cannot have debate anymore. We cannot have differences of opinion. Anything that doesn't agree with the narrative must be shut down quickly, and the people who make those arguments must be ridiculed and banned, censored, canceled, whatever the word you want to use is. Now, there are still ways of getting information, but you have to go to alt media, whether it's AM talk radio or financial newsletters whose only purpose, they don't rely on advertising, and the only way they make money is if they tell their subscribers how to make money in stocks. And if you notice, oil stocks have done very well in the year in which everything else went down and to the right. That's not a good way to go for stocks, but oil stocks went up and to the right. So something's good about oil. Otherwise, people wouldn't be buying it, and there would not be the need for the climate alarmists to censor anything good about fossil fuels.
And to add on what Richard said, Substack, Michael Schellenberger, Greenberg, all those folks are finding a voice, but the only way they can find a voice is to actually make more money than they made by selling their wares on various platforms. So on the one hand, it's great that they can make a darn good living, but on the other hand, it's horrible that people who assume that that lamestream media is relatively objective will never see any dissenting voices. So
I think that the nice thing about all of this is that mainstream media, whatever you want to call it, has, I think, overstepped their credibility. I think more and more people are waking up to the fact that you simply can't trust the New York Times. You can't trust the Washington Post. You can't trust network TV or cable TV or anything that is legacy. They're all basically lapdogs of the call it the military industrial intelligence state. We know that from the files that have been released, include social media in that too, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and so forth. We know that from the way Musk has been leaking the Twitter files, which show that the FBI in particular was paying Twitter to manage the tweets that actually got seen.
The funny thing with all this is that you keep mentioning the mainstream media here. And I mean, to me, it seems almost like Chatbox is indistinguishable from the mainstream media. It's almost like they're engineering a non-human reporter so that there's no chance of an error. They'll accidentally tell the truth.
Exactly. That's exactly what's happening. That's exactly what's happening.
Yeah, it's kind of defeated the purpose of the AI chatbot. If you're going to tell it what it has to say, that's kind of defeating the whole purpose of the project in the first place. So I don't know what they're doing. So speaking of not knowing what they're doing, we're going to skip down for a second and talk about banning gas stoves. Because the banning of gas stoves, or I guess what they wanted to do was ban the new construction, the use of gas stoves in new construction, right? Which is what they've already done here in Sacramento. They've already done that. They passed that regulation a couple of weeks ago. So in Sacramento, if you have a new house, you can't put in a gas stove, and they're going to, the restaurants and stuff, they're coming for you soon, right? As soon as the technology is there, they're going to force the restaurants to convert over. And the question is, banning new constructions is one thing, but we live in California. We know how this goes. Next, then they're going to force it so you can't sell any of them, which makes it impossible to get parts and replacements. And so for everybody who currently has a gas stove, well, sure, in 10 years, you're not going to be able to get a replacement. So you have no choice but to get an electric stove.
No, and eventually they'll cut it. As soon as they figure out they can get by with it, we probably won't be that long. They'll cut off the gas supply, and you won't be able to cook with gas. You won't be able to heat with gas, etc.
And these are the same people who were 15 years ago were telling us clean natural gas. The exact same people.
Yeah, and I mean the health detriments of natural gas cooking are marginal, to say the least. A properly vented gas stove is absolutely minimal as far as health danger is concerned.
Well, the smoke from my cooking is far more dangerous than the gas stove. So that I can guarantee you. Hey, John, what do you think about it? Or is John frozen?
Yeah, no, I unfroze for a minute. As soon as I start talking, the AI will intelligently quiet me down here. No, it's strange because, if every, they're working themselves into a corner where, right now, if it wasn't for natural gas, they shut off all the natural gas, the world would come to a grinding halt because there isn't enough electricity being produced by their mislabeled renewables. They are shutting down coal-fired power plants, and if they just instantly replaced all the coal-fired power plants in the world with natural gas-fueled power plants, which is, I'm not saying it's an easy conversion, but it's a conversion. You're just applying heat to boilers, basically. The amount add CO2 in the atmosphere would be reduced significantly. And the bigger problem is that if they're really concerned about it, having China, which is by far produces more CO2 emissions, it's got a bigger carbon footprint than the next, I think, 6 or 7 industrial nations in the world. I think it's more than, is it like 60% of the CO2 in the world? They're not even going to slow down their growth in CO2 emissions until 2035. And they're not even going to do it then because they're saying they're going to slow it down then, and they never do what they say. So we're going to, force people to do crazy things like put electric stoves in their houses where, when we had high temperatures in the summer, people were electric. You tell them not to cook. Don't run your air conditioning. Don't turn on your lights because it's bad for the environment. And then what people are going to do, they're going to buy lanterns. They're going to start using wood, which is crazy noxious and polluting. I wouldn't be surprised if people started finding a source of coal to use. So,
well, John, that's already happening in Germany.
Yeah,
it's already happening in Germany. Germany's gas was cut off when probably, we don't know for sure, but probably the United States, in cooperation with Great Britain, blew up the Nord Stream gas line. The gas line from Russia to Germany. That was blown up under the ocean, and nobody's taking credit for it, but it's probably us or Great Britain, ensuring that Germany can't buy Russian gas. What are Germans doing? They're firing up old coal power plants, and German people are stockpiling logs out of their more or less pristine or now pristine national forests. It's absolutely nuts. But there's probably a more sinister explanation, and that is this: the people who are the most rabid anti pollution, green scaremongers are people who, if you talk to them where they are talk to them in private, where they are not going to be quoted on media, they will say the population of the earth is way too high. We need to decrease the population of the earth. Present company accepted, of course. And one way to do that is to make life so miserable that reproduction goes down, or that people actually end up starving to death, which is a very real possibility when you cut down the amount of inputs that fossil fuels and so forth and trade and all of the rest of things that have been shut down with COVID and now coming up with the environmental movement. They're shutting down a whole big chunk of industry that makes civilization what it is. And I think that's the goal. I don't think it's an accident. I think with some of the key players, it's actually the goal, because they're looking for population decrease, and that's one way to get it.
Well, yeah, and ultimately, I think that leadership in Davos is trying to tell us is that you really don't need a stove to cook or to eat your mealworms and crickets. I mean, they're just fine without a stove.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is too, if they're saying today that the gas stove is dangerous and anything in the name of health they can regulate, well, what's to stop them from eventually saying, hey, how many kids a year get burned on an electric stove? And we got to take your electric stove away from you too.
Yeah.
Or they determine that the microwave is too dangerous, right? Whatever it is. But I also want to point out the hypocrisy. These are the people who actually have their own gas stoves, right? It's not like people actually care.
There's a great meme of Joe Biden going around who's basically cooking on gas.
Yeah. So
and OAC and on and on.
You don't actually care about what they say they care about. That's actually the thing that's.
I imagine some of them probably have a gas range on their private jets that they fly back and forth to Davos on.
No doubt.
No doubt. All right. So, but there are some good things. There was a kerfuffle, right, about this House speakership a couple weeks ago, but it turns out there might be a handful of potentially good things. Everything with it's like teenagers when you're dealing with politicians, right? Until it actually happens, I don't trust it. But they've given some compromises, and that the Freedom Caucus, and there's looks to be a few things that are looking up. Maybe some processes are back. Some normal governing processes are starting to return to the House. Is that a fair assessment there, Richard?
Yeah, I would say so. If you take a look at the ability to recall the speaker, one representative in the House can put a motion on the floor to recall the speaker. That reins in the speaker's power. That's something that Nancy Pelosi never would have agreed to. If you look at the ability to have votes on single subjects and 72 hours to review voting on anything. That's a huge chink in the armor of those who try to pass all of their pork through omnibus spending plans. So there's a lot to, it's not a huge amount of progress, but it's progress in the right direction. And it happened only because the libertarians or quasi-libertarians, the libertarian Republicans, said to McCarthy, "We ain't going to vote for you unless you agree to our demands," and he did, and that's a good thing.
I think the most important part of it is that the 2/3 majority for any spending increases, it's. I got a couple of friends who are hardcore Republicans, and they're saying Republicans don't really want to be in charge because then they get blamed for all this stuff, so they can yell and scream and make hay, but in the end, do nothing. But the idea that our founders knew that government, if
The chat AI didn't like John speaking.
Yeah. So it never does, and the idea that you need a 2/3 majority for a spending increase, and they're trying to push, well, if we're going to, do any increases, we're going to do some reductions somewhere else. And some of the hardcore warmongering Republicans didn't want to go on board with that. And so, I think it's good. And the lamestream press and the new, what do you call it? The new old media, the Googles and the Facebooks, and not Twitter, thank goodness now, but all the rest of them are going to, somehow anybody coming up with the idea that running these kind of deficits is a bad thing isn't going to get a voice, and the headlines are going to scream. But our founders wanted gridlock. They didn't want a bunch of people, voting bread and circuses for the masses. They didn't want us, creating fiat currency and all the rest of this. But now these people once again have a voice. The Tea Party movement was a wonderful thing because they were talking about these very things, and then that fell apart. And now we're talking about them again. You can't have the deficits we're running, and I would love to see a constitutional amendment or laws passed because we can't run at a deficit, and that you need to start reducing government spending everywhere. Like our military spending. I know it's a drop in the hat, but we spend more than the next 6 nations behind us do on military.
Oh, well, Jason, John froze up. We'll let you.
Yeah, that's because I'm talking about graft and corruption. I always freeze when I'm doing that. Yeah, it gets me all excited, but it freezes the screen. It's just we spend ridiculous amounts of money, and it's simply buying votes and paying off friends. And we need to stop doing it unless we really do want our great-great-grandchildren to starve to death. It's that simple.
Yeah. We're eating tomorrow's lunch today. Sounds like, and leaving our kids hungry tomorrow. But I tell you, it feels like we didn't get the whole Justin Amash with this thing, but we got a little bit of the Justin Amash with this compromise on the speaker stuff. So that's kind of good. I feel like we got some reforms, and in the end, maybe this will bring a little more truth and debate into the House. And I just think overall it's a positive thing that we got going. So I had another thought, but it's flown away. So I'll let you.
I don't know about truth, Jason, but we should bring some debate back in the House, which is good. But truth when you're talking with politicians down there is not not something that happens very often.
I still.
Yeah.
I want to ask my question again. Well, why is it illegal to lie to Congress when it's not illegal for them to lie to us?
Well, what's brings up?
Why is it a felony to lie to the FBI when they lie to whoever they're interrogating?
Yeah, and it does. Wait,
Well, I was just going to say on that same note, one of the things I just remembered what it was, the January 6th tapes, the fact that they're going to require all that to be let out. So, I mean, the idea that they can literally see evidence that we can't see where they're throwing people in jail is just absolutely nuts to me. I mean, I think, it would be good for us all to see what really happened that day that our government is allowing itself to see and we can't see.
Mm.
Uh,
I would call it the big nothing burger. No evidence that, I mean, Trump's an idiot and shouldn't rein those people in, but some hooligans and I'm willing to bet if you could get all that tape, all that video, you would find FBI agents scattered throughout the crowd instigating. I bet you would. I bet you'd find some of Pelosi's people opening the doors to let the rabble in because it makes for a great camera, and a year later you can have this show trial like they do in the Soviet Union. I mean, it's just theater, and I'm willing to bet that somehow the original video, because that building's got more videotape than Hollywood could ever dream of, will disappear. We'll never find out who actually opened the doors. There's already lots of on I guess the border media talking about some people that had deep connections with the FBI that were that are now have basically just disappeared from the face of the earth, or at least from social media. So it's just when a politician lies, all it means is they're still breathing. When they stop lying, it means they're dead. So that's simple. Yeah, our governor's like, phew, man. What is that hands thing he's always doing? It looks like the devil when he does that, when he's holding his hands out and the camera shows him from below. I don't get that. What's that about?
I don't know either, John. But George Santos is another one who's getting into trouble for lying, right? And there's this big cold kerfluffle. Now, Richard, you sent the article over, and I couldn't read it because of a paywall. So you are going to have to let us know about this.
Well, I mean, it's common knowledge now.
Investments or whatever it was.
It's common knowledge now, but after he was elected. But it so happens that there was an independent, small, I think, weekly newspaper on Long Island that was exposing all of his lies early on during the campaign. Nobody was paying attention. Mainstream media wasn't paying attention. I guess they figured the Democrat would win anyway. I don't know. But now that he's won, it's a big deal. The only problem with that is, he was a liar, and he took the art to a ridiculous high form, or maybe we should say low form, for the simple reason that he was not able to cover up his lies as effectively and as competently as, say, I don't know, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, you name the
Nancy Pelosi.
Politicians lie all the time. And he was lying not about policy or things he was going to do or not do, or maybe he was lying about that too. I'm not sure. But what he was lying about essentially was his resume, that he was, a big deal in an investment bank, which eventually got shuttered anyway. That he, who knows, claims to be Jewish. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. Who knows? Claims to be a bisexual or one of those latter things. Maybe, I don't know. He's just he's a liar, and he got caught, and we're surprised. What? We're surprised? Are we surprised that there's gambling going on at Monte Carlo? I guess so.
Well, we've got Elizabeth Warren's "I'm a Native American," right? And so these people lie, and the question is, why is it that one group or the other gets all upset when the other side lies, but when their side's lying, that's okay. It's okay. It's like, you guys don't actually care. You don't actually care about the lying. You don't care about dishonesty. You just care when you can use it for your own political advantage. That's really all that matters.
Well, right now it's a big deal because the House is so closely divided between Democrats and the Republicans. The Democrats figure any Republican seat they can pick off and force into a special election or whatever happens is making it all that much closer, and there's not a whole lot of margin there. That's why it's a big deal right now.
Well, I think also it shows incompetence on the part of the Republican Party. The red wave should have been much bigger. I'm saying Republicans are right, but they ran some just nasty bad candidates.
Oh, incredibly bad.
And didn't care that they were nasty bad. They just wanted to get him elected, and I mean, yeah, Trump has some pull, and might have helped the Republicans in some areas, but him, the fact that the only requirement for these people to get the support of the party is that they were Trump loyalists is that's pretty scary. And they can have no other. I mean, the Dr. Oz or whatever name is a charlatan and patent medicine monger. Walker or the running back. No, I don't know. No idea at all what to do in office. Maybe that's what we want. I think maybe we should just elect all the village idiots, which we can't use that term anymore, and put them in Congress. Just find not we find out after the fact that they're completely incompetent, but let's go look for the least competent people to start with and just dress them up in clown suits and put them in Congress, because that's what they are.
I can't remember who it was that you could get a better Congress. Maybe it was, I can't. You could get a better Congress simply by picking 225 names at random out of the phone book than you do by going through the electoral facade.
You'd probably get a more honest Congress anyway.
Yeah,
there are some rare exceptions. There's some good folks.
We've got less than 2 minutes, but I want to cover this one. The Russiagate misinformation ended up being the misinformation, as the Twitter files have now kind of exposed clearly that the Twitter execs knew that the Russian bot stuff was nonsense. They told the Democrats and the FBI and intelligence agencies, we don't see what you're saying. But yet everybody went with it anyway. And eventually Twitter just kind of surrendered to the pressure. What else are you going to do? If they keep hammering you over this kind of thing, you eventually kind of surrender, right? Because what else are you going to do?
I think the lesson to be learned there is the deep state, the administrative state, the people behind the politicians that are, the civil service, whatever, those are the people that are in control. And they didn't want Trump for good reasons and bad. I mean, Trump had a whole lot of bad reasons for why you would not want to vote for this clown, but he did a few good things, appointing Supreme Court justices being one of them. In any case, the administrative state did not want Trump. They pulled out all the stops to prevent that from happening, including de facto censorship of not only the mainstream media, but also the alternative media. The only thing you can trust anymore is a few financial sites and AM talk radio. That's it.
Yeah, and they also silenced us, the average American citizens who just want to talk.
Yeah, if you try to find Libertarian Counterpoint, we used to have our own channel. Now you have to put Libertarian Counterpoint in quotes to find it on YouTube.
Yeah, so they've made it, the shadow banning and the censoring is kind of,
and I'm sure the reason
that really should be the
they're having
story of the
technical
rest of
difficulties is sabotaged by the deep state. I'm sure that's what it is.
Well, we are out of time. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here this week, putting this together real quickly. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you all for watching, and please remember to love everybody. See you next week.
Thanks for having